All right. I think I'm live again. It's been a week since my last live stream, but that live stream did really well. It has like 15,000 views. I highly recommend you go watch that after you watch this live stream. So I give more broad-based thoughts on why Bitcoin mining stocks aren't going up. But I'll give everybody a moment here to cycle in. We had some big news come in today, actually, causing the big drawdown with Bitcoin mining stocks. There's one major catalyst that I'll talk about here in this live stream. And then, of course, I'll leave this live stream up for replay if people want to come back and watch this later. So, I'll give people a moment here to cycle in. Make sure you say hi in the chat if you're popping by. Hit the like button for me. Do all that stuff. Today was an interesting day. I'll go ahead and switch over to my Google screen here. And obviously, if you have thoughts to share those in the chat as well. All right, here we go. So today, Bitcoin hit a new all-time high, and it finally broke through it. It hit 72,000. I guess as of now, it's at $72,341, which of course is above that $69,000 level that we were kind of stuck at for a little bit. But what was really weird is, and I guess I don't have these tabs pulled up, like CleanSpark, my personal stock pick, my favorite, was down 16.5% on a day where Bitcoin set a new all-time high and was up 5%. And this is crazy. This is crazy stuff. In this, we have seen this happen before, and I'll kind of discuss that in today's live stream as well. But very, very interesting. Up 5% for Bitcoin, my personal favorite, CleanSpark, which actually has been the outperformer this year. It's been the only stock that's outperformed Bitcoin out of any of the Bitcoin mining stocks. Was down 16.5%. But just for fun, let's go ahead and look at Marathon. Marathon was down 12%. You can see there. I think Riot was actually the best performing Bitcoin mining stock, if I'm not mistaken, down 4.62%. Crazy also. And okay, I guess we could pull up like a Bitfarms just to check that out. Bitfarms is down 10.5%. So the big news today, and again, make sure you say hello in the chat if you're popping by. The big news today was actually this Bitcoin mining tax that Joe Biden proposed in his fiscal year 2025 budget. And I have that pulled up on the screen now. I guess I can zoom in for you a little bit so you can see it a little better. But yeah, this morning, Joe Biden unveiled his proposed fiscal year 2025 budget, and it included a crypto mining excise tax. Basically, the government views Bitcoin mining as another avenue to have income for the government. I'm going to try my best not to trash on the government, but if you guys have followed my channel, you would know I'm not a big fan of big government. And whenever they raise taxes, not a big fan either, because that's taking money directly out of other people's pockets. What this excise tax means is that the crypto mining companies, so CleanSpark, Marathon, Riot, you name it, your favorite miners out there, Cypher, Bitfarms, they would have to pay a tax on the energy they use to mine Bitcoin, which of course hurts margins. And also, of course, that is not a good thing. When you own a public company, you want their margins to be as high as they possibly can be, so that they're a profitable company and they're as profitable as they can be. They're operating most efficiently. So this is a major negative catalyst that we saw, particularly with Bitcoin mining stocks today, was Joe Biden's budget proposal this morning. Now, the thing about this, and people are going to use this as FUD, they're going to spread this all over the internet. The thing about this is actually unlikely to go through in its current form. It's unlikely, in my opinion, that this crypto mining excise tax will actually be a part of the 2025 fiscal budget. You see, last year, and I think even 2 years ago, Joe Biden tried to include this sort of tax in the budget, and it never has been approved. So, although it's a negative catalyst today, it's long term, I think this is just going to prove to be another buying opportunity for these Bitcoin mining stocks. But yeah, if you're really wondering about the big reason Bitcoin miners struggled today, while Bitcoin set a new all-time high, up 5% on the day, it's because of this. It's because of this. If a company's margins come down, and particularly if the government starts to come after a particular industry or group of companies, those companies are going to feel pain in the stock market because investors like as little FUD as possible. They like to invest in companies that have less fear, uncertainty, and doubt. When you have the government and President Joe Biden coming after you and your investments, it adds fear, it adds uncertainty, it adds doubt to your investment in that company. So naturally, especially people on Wall Street are going to sell out of these sorts of stocks. But yeah, I'm trying my best not to trash on the government, but I'm not a fan of them raising taxes, especially on businesses and individuals. Not a big fan of it. It's like they're trying to fix a problem by taking more money out of the economy and the businesses that operate in their economy and in their country. It doesn't seem right to me. I would rather see the government cut spending before they try and raise taxes and raise their tax income. I mean, there's two parts to this budget equation. It's income and it's expenses. And expenses is a very, very, very big portion here that there's a lot of fat with that the government, even under Trump, I'm not just trashing the Biden administration here. Even under Trump, we have so much crap in our budget, in our fiscal budget, that could be cut and needs to be cut before you punish individuals and the companies in your country by raising their taxes and taking more income away from them. By taxing crypto mining companies, in a way, it's going to take money out of investors' pockets. It's going to take money out of these companies' pockets, which these companies, crypto mining companies, are investing hundreds of millions of dollars into the infrastructure of the country. And if you guys know, I mean, especially the current administration, they're a big fan of electric vehicles. And I'm not trashing on that. I own a Tesla. I drive a Tesla. But these crypto mining companies are making major investments domestically into the infrastructure of the company and into the infrastructure of the country. And the infrastructure is under a major load right now. And if you add all these electric vehicles, it's just going to get worse. So I really don't think this is going to be good. I don't think it's going to be approved. The bottom line is we have people and I guess lobbyists, they're not lobbyists, but people that are always talking to government officials, explaining this sort of thing. But it's kind of like out at the farm. You know, I'm a fourth generation farmer for those that didn't know this. When we say we buy a new plot of land to grow corn or soybeans on, and it doesn't have electricity, there aren't telephone poles, so we have to power our irrigation systems with diesel-powered motors and engines. Or we can choose to develop that infrastructure, pay to have the electricity put in, and then everybody that lives around that area benefits from the electricity we just put in. So it's not a whole lot different from crypto mining. Yes, and this actually pairs with this article that was put out by Bloomberg today. I don't have the official Bloomberg article because there's a pay gate, but this website CoinGape talked about it, and it's crazy timing. Bloomberg put out an article that said Bitcoin miners pace up energy consumption by over 61% ahead of the halving event, which again, the halving event's going to take place in late April. So you have this headline come out that makes it seem like crypto mining companies are stealing energy. And I think the Bloomberg article, and I'll open this up, but I think it said they were devouring electricity, which has negative connotations to it. Yeah, Bitcoin miners are devouring energy at a record pace. I mean, come on. And then this comes out this morning that this crypto mining excise tax is included in the budget again for 2025. Bloomberg puts out an article. Joe Biden says he's going to tax these companies. Obviously, that's going to be a negative catalyst. I mean, and this is not a whole lot different from why I'm investing into Tesla right now. I mean, the news headlines around these sorts of companies are so negative. And eventually, that negative news is going to peak. And you'll start to get some positive news again. And this is something, you know, Dennis Porter is one that what word am I looking for? I can't think of the word I'm looking for right now, but he's a person that goes to state legislatures. He goes to Washington, D.C. to explain to these officials that aren't well-versed on Bitcoin mining and Bitcoin mining stocks and the benefits they can provide for our infrastructure and actually the incentives they provide to develop clean, efficient energy in our country and in our economy. So shout out to Dennis Porter. He follows me on X, and I think he follows me here on YouTube. I met him in person last year. He's a really great guy. But that's just one example of a person doing that, and that's tough work. I give my credit and dues to him. Anyways, so obviously that's some negative catalyst going on. You also have this. Bitfarms, and they're not the only company. I'm not just picking on Bitfarms. They're just the most recent example. They announced a $375 million at-the-market equity offering program. I think this came out yesterday after hours. This again, is not just Bitfarms. This is what is happening in the industry. You're seeing a lot, actually most public Bitcoin mining companies heavily diluting right now. Heavily diluting because with Bitcoin hitting new all-time highs, you have two groups of companies that now believe, oh, Bitcoin prices went higher. Now I think we will be profitable after the halving event, and maybe we will continue to be able to operate as a Bitcoin mining company. So I'm going to go ahead and raise some money just in case I can continue to do this thing and I can scale up after this halving event, and maybe I will be able to make it. You know, just a few weeks ago, that was not reality. That was not reality at all. So this is the last, I called it on X today, I called it the last big hurrah of this arms race. You know, for the last couple of years, probably the last 3 years actually, Bitcoin mining companies have been in a arms race to get their hands on as much infrastructure, as many Bitcoin mining rigs as they possibly can. And leading up to this halving event taking place, I think it's supposed to take place on April 19th of this year, we're seeing this last big hurrah. These companies making their last big investments prior to this halving taking place. And obviously, if they're diluting shareholders while this is happening, I shouldn't say it's going to bring down stock prices, but it's going to put selling pressure on stock prices. There's going to be more sellers in the market for these stocks because the company itself is adding to the block of sellers that are selling their company. But this is kind of a necessity for these companies to create the security over, and reduce this fear and uncertainty and doubt over whether or not they're going to be able to operate post-halving. So again, not picking on Bitfarms, even had Marathon come out, and I would have to Google it again. Maybe it'll pop up if I just type in Marathon Digital Dilution. I don't know if it will, but in their earnings call, they talked about like an additional $1.5 billion of capital they want to add to their balance sheet. Yeah, I don't see it here. But they talked about adding another $1.5 to $2 billion to their balance sheet, which of course that has to come from somewhere, and it's coming from shareholders. They're going to sell equity. They're going to sell more stock, and that is a lot of stock. I mean, let's pull up Marathon again here quick. Mara stock is a $5.5 billion company. So let's just go ahead and say they add $2 billion of cash to their balance sheet pre-halving. Well, that's adding what, 40% of their current market cap to the cash on their balance sheet? That is a lot of dilution. Now, post-halving event, I expect the dilution to slow down. You're going to start to see the companies use and burn through their cash to acquire distressed assets, if there are any. So right now, obviously there's fear, uncertainty, and doubt about this halving event. I think that's a certainty. I don't think there's any disputing that. Whether or not some of these companies are going to be able to operate post-halving, and whether or not the price of Bitcoin is going to remain at all-time highs. We're all excited about Bitcoin hitting 100,000. Well, it's equally likely that Bitcoin could go back down to 30,000. And at that point, a lot of these Bitcoin mining companies would not be profitable and probably would not be able to operate. And that can happen in the snap of our fingers. We've seen it happen before many times. Bitcoin is a very, very volatile asset, which adds to the risk of investing into Bitcoin mining stocks. So you have that fear out there right now, and it's a legitimate fear. Okay, anyways, let's go ahead and move on to this article here. And I should give a shout out to the Miner Mag as well. They have the best research and due diligence, and they have alerts whenever Bitcoin mining companies put out new news that you can sign up for. I met these guys that run this website as well a couple of years ago. They're great guys. So shout out to the Miner Mag. Maybe some of them are watching this. Again, if you guys are new here or returning and not yet subscribed, please subscribe down below. Don't forget to do that. Our channel's been growing like crazy. We're probably going to hit 30,000 tomorrow, 30,000 subscribers tomorrow. If you guys hold CleanSpark or Bitcoin mining stocks, I also highly recommend you to join my membership, which is the cheapest one on YouTube, and I think it's the best one. And if you don't find value, I 100% refund you. So there's a zero risk, first month there for you. Anyways, and it helps support me. So this article kind of goes through everything. And I'm not going to go through the whole article, but you can kind of see here, this chart shows all of the Bitcoin mining stocks, and I think my camera might be covering up part of this, so I'll scroll down a little bit more. But as of when this article was put out yesterday, I think it was, CleanSpark was the only Bitcoin mining company actually outperforming Bitcoin itself. CleanSpark was up 52%, Bitcoin is up 50%. And every single other mining company, Marathon, Bitfarms, Cypher, Wolf, Iron, Riot, Hives, SDIG, Hut, Bit Digital, Argo Blockchain, and I can't remember what GREE is, Greenidge, I think. They were all red, and most of them red by 20% or more. So it's safe to say, especially recently, Bitcoin mining stocks have really felt a lot of pain, and this kind of puts it into an image or a picture. So I wanted to show that. And this is more of a long-term photo. Since basically the end of 2022, you can see how Bitcoin has kind of retaken the lead over these companies. And this has happened before. Whenever we go through Bitcoin bear markets, Bitcoin will actually outperform the Bitcoin mining stocks. It's not until the bull market really matures that historically we've seen these huge runs happen for the Bitcoin mining stocks. They talk about it a little bit here. An example is December 2017, when Bitcoin touched $19,500 for the first time, and that did not regain that level until December 2020. During those 3 years, there were only 5 public mining stocks in North America: Marathon, Riot, Hut, Hive, and Bitfarms. Kind of crazy to think about, because now there's like 20 on the dot public mining companies. And similarly, they all underperformed compared to Bitcoin at the time. Here's a chart of that thanks to TradingView. You can see how they really underperformed Bitcoin. I mean, Hut was down 60%, Hive was down 64%, Marathon was down 75%, and Riot was down 77%. What's interesting, though, is what happened in the year afterward. Bitcoin started a bull run from 19.5 in December 2020 to 69,000 in November of 2021. Those were crazy times. During those 11 months, the 5 mining stocks that existed before December 2020 all managed to outrun Bitcoin by notable margins. You'll see that. Bitfarms was up 1,200%, Marathon was up 1,100%, and Hut was up 1,000%. Hive was up 400%, Riot was up 334%, and Bitcoin itself was up basically 235%. And CleanSpark didn't get into Bitcoin mining until the end of 2020, I think it was. I think it was the end of 2020, and they were only up 100% at the time. So they finished this article by saying, should the full bull run return, history could very well repeat itself. The main difference this time, though, is the spot Bitcoin ETFs and the fact that Bitcoin has returned, albeit briefly, to its all-time high even before the imminent halving. In 2016 and 2020, that did not happen until months after the halving event. What does that mean for mining stocks? The answer lies in the months ahead. So again, that's more fear, uncertainty, and doubt about the current state of Bitcoin mining stocks. We have never seen this happen before. And people thought I was crazy when I said this. But most investors in the Bitcoin mining space just don't understand markets. They said, there's no way we're going to set a new all-time high prior to the halving event because it's never happened before. Bitcoin trades at an identical cycle every single time, and I am going to maximize my profits by buying at the perfect time and then selling at the perfect time based on the Bitcoin cycle. The problem is Bitcoin itself is a market, and you have different dynamics, right? I mean, you have the Bitcoin cycle of the Bitcoin daily reward being cut in half every 4 years. That is a legit thing. But the thing about efficient markets is everybody thinks about what you just thought about if you're one of those investors. that I'm going to maximize returns, and I can time this out perfectly because in the past, this is what has happened every single time. Well, what happens if everybody front runs it and thinks they can maximize their profits by buying just before the halving event and then selling a year after the halving event? Everybody front runs it. And there's a thing about capital allocation. If everybody's in the market and most people are trying to front run a cycle that is quote unquote 100% predictable, all of a sudden it's going to be 100% unpredictable. And the opposite is going to happen. So this time, because this time is different, and I called this out again, people thought I was crazy and stupid, but because this time is different, and we did hit a new all-time high prior to the halving event, there's question that maybe this is a left-translated cycle, meaning that this time, the top of the Bitcoin run is going to come much sooner than it has historically, and that this Bitcoin bull market is going to be shorter in length than it has been historically. And I think that's actually a very realistic possibility. And again, it's more fear, uncertainty, and doubt with buying Bitcoin mining stocks right now. Because most people, thought Bitcoin was 100% predictable and they could time this out perfectly, so they knew exactly what they were going to do with their Bitcoin mining stocks. Well, now all of a sudden their plan has been foiled because they were dumb enough to believe that the cycle is 100% predictable with price movement, and they're caught in a catch-22. These stocks have made a huge run because Bitcoin has already set a new all-time high when they weren't planning on this to happen until after the halving event. So fear, uncertainty, and doubt always drives negative price movement. So you had the supposed Bitcoin mining tax proposal this morning, the article by Bloomberg talking about how Bitcoin miners were devouring energy, no positive talk about how they're developing infrastructure for our country and our economy. None of that. It's all negative news. You have Bitcoin mining companies out there, participating in this one last hurrah with this Bitcoin mining arms race, whether that's buying new facilities, buying more the most highly efficient Bitcoin mining rigs pre-halving, because now they think they can operate at a profit post-halving since Bitcoin has made its run. And there's this that I just talked about, the Bitcoin cycle that has been disproven again. So what I want to cover, though, is you have people all over X freaking out. Everybody over at X is freaking out that mining stocks have decorrelated from Bitcoin and they will never trade in correlation with Bitcoin ever again. Why would you own Bitcoin mining stocks? MicroStrategy is up so much and Bitcoin mining stocks have lagged. I think MicroStrategy is going to flatline here. It's going to underperform. Look at MicroStrategy's performance in 2023 compared to the Bitcoin miners. I'm talking the high-quality Bitcoin miners. And the Bitcoin miners throughout 2023 outperformed MicroStrategy by hundreds of %. And really, over the past 5 days is when MicroStrategy has made its biggest move. I think it has to do with a short squeeze. MicroStrategy was heavily, heavily short squeezed because the bottom line was if Bitcoin failed, and a lot of people thought Bitcoin would fail just 6 months ago, the bottom line is if Bitcoin failed, MicroStrategy as a company would fail because they are highly levered to Bitcoin. They borrowed hundreds of millions of dollars to buy Bitcoin, and if Bitcoin goes to zero, MicroStrategy also goes to zero. So they were heavily short sold. And I think, as Bitcoin has hit a new all-time high, that's caused this short squeeze. Eventually, this short squeeze is going to end, and MicroStrategy's outperformance is going to really cool off, in my personal opinion. So what I wanted to say in all of this, I keep getting sidetracked, is no matter what, this is how markets work. If the underlying asset of a company goes up in value, if it appreciates, the value of that same company that either mines that asset and or holds that asset is also going to appreciate. That's just the way things work. It's just the way things work. And if it doesn't work that way in the stock market, tremendous alpha presents itself, which is an opportunity to outperform the stock market. And if the underlying asset of these companies, Bitcoin, continues to appreciate, these Bitcoin mining companies, their stock prices are also going to appreciate over the long term. Most people, I shouldn't say most, but a lot of people on Twitter and YouTube are freaked out over the last 6 to 10 days of Bitcoin mining stocks and the way they've traded. When in doubt, zoom out. It's okay. Everything's going to be fine. CleanSpark, for one, has made like a 600% return in 12 months. Never in history have we ever had stocks make such large returns and just keep freaking going up. Just no end, just goes up in a straight line forever. Eventually, traders take profits. The tourists that entered the trade to take advantage of the Bitcoin ETFs getting approved and the Bitcoin price skyrocketing, eventually they're going to take profits. Eventually, they're going to sell out of their positions because they're not investors. They're tourists. They're here to try and capture a quick gain. And unfortunately, with Bitcoin mining stocks, at least now, while Bitcoin is pretty unmature or immature at this point, I think over the long term, it'll mature more. But with that being the case now, Bitcoin mining stocks lots of traders are attracted to Bitcoin mining stocks is the thing I should say. And, people talk about how Bitcoin mining stocks, used to be the only proxy to get Bitcoin exposure. And that's 100% true, 100% true. They used to be the only way that regular investors could get access to Bitcoin. 100% true. And now you have these Bitcoin ETFs. More and more people are figuring out how to buy Bitcoin itself and hold it in cold storage. There's a short-term headwinds. Sure, I'll admit that. I'll give that to you. There's short-term headwinds when it comes to new opportunities and new offerings that give investors the ability to get exposure to Bitcoin. New proxies, I guess is the word to say, to get exposure to Bitcoin outside of the Bitcoin mining stocks. Sure, over the short term, that's going to be a headwind. Absolutely, because the capital that's going into these Bitcoin ETFs, that capital has to come from somewhere. And some of that capital inevitably is going to come out of what used to be the only proxy to get exposure to Bitcoin, and that's Bitcoin mining stocks. But eventually, that capital imbalance is going to balance out again, where the people that want to sell out of their Bitcoin mining stocks to buy Bitcoin itself or the Bitcoin ETFs, they're going to have done so. And you're going to have these traders that have taken their profits and they've sold out. They're going to be done with that. And eventually, this buy and sell imbalance, and eventually another part of this is these companies diluting. Post-halving, their dilution is going to slow down tremendously. It will. And when that happens, it's another catalyst that's going to even out this buy and sell imbalance. And I can't even believe I'm discussing a selling imbalance or a buying and selling imbalance to the sell side. I mean, these stocks are up hundreds of percent. So it's natural. It's absolutely natural. So with that, unfortunately, I have to run. If you guys had questions in the chat, first of all, subscribe if you're new here or returning not and subscribe. I appreciate it greatly. If you guys had questions, and I'm sorry I can't get to the chat today, shoot me a message on X. My DMs are always open, or join my Discord server. You can hit the join button located right next to the subscribe button, and I'll leave my Patreon link in the replay of this stream. So if you're just showing up to the stream, be sure you rewatch the stream to see everything that I said. But yeah, my DMs are always open on Twitter. You can get a hold of me on Instagram as well. Otherwise, join my Discord server. That's the best way to get access to me if you have questions. Sorry I can't get to the chat today, guys. I got to run. I'm kind of in a hurry this evening. But I'll leave this stream up for replay. Again, thank you all for showing up. Hit that like button for me. And if you guys are new here or returning to not yet subscribed, please subscribe down below. Stay blessed. Have a great rest of your day. I'll be back with a brand new video tomorrow. Peace out.